The horn of Helm Hammerhand shall sound in the deep. One last time.
Welcome back to Any Heroics. So we are back and we are reviewing the 9th King of Rohan, Helm Hammerhand himself. Thanks for all your comments on the Mardin video. I have taken them on board. For those of you who didn't see the community post, I have bought the Knight of Umbar and he is painted, he's ready to go. Just waiting for a tournament that's like actually feasible for me to take him to, because I don't want to like totally ruin my weekend. But yeah, I thought we'd do a little deep dive on Helm Hammerhand, who's not really a model you see very often. It's when you sort of get towards the higher points, he really starts to cap out, which is kind of where he falls down, which is why you probably don't see him that much. And then at lower points, if you want to go like super competitive, there's probably just like better things to take. But he is a lot of fun, so I thought I'd do a little deep dive into him and see where we go. So I'm going to a 400-point tournament on Saturday, and I thought that's the perfect points level to really crack him out and see kind of what happens. In terms of stats, this man is an absolute monster. Fight 5, she's got shoot value 4, not that you can shoot anything. He's strength 5, he's D7, he's got 3 attacks, he's 3 wounds. He's courage 6, he's got the 3 might, 3 will, and fate. He's got burly, which means he's two-handed like a motherfucker. He's got expert rider, which is also very handy on any Rohan hero. And then he's got Horse Lord, which he only got 1 precious fate, so like it's a bit of a shitter when his horse dies, but you know it's nice of him to have anyway. Other stuff that he has on him, he has the Horn of Hammerhand, which is a war horn, which buffs him up to courage 7. Why they didn't make him fearless in the game, I have no idea. If you're sort of equipped with the lore, you kind of understand why he should be fearless. If you're not equipped with the lore, this isn't the right video. Go and watch Nerd of the Rings or someone. He'll give you a really good sort of like overview on who he is. But yes, but the Warhorn's good obviously for the list as well. And when he charges, he causes terror, which is quite a nice little rule. It's quite similar to sort of like Dane and like those kinds of people. And it just kind of like adds to his overall sort of like tankiness when he's just tearing through Dunland things or whoever it is that he's fighting. Heroic action wise, he's pretty much got the full kit. The only things he don't have.
Kiss my artichoke! Look.
The only things he doesn't have are March, which makes sense because all of his fighting he basically did just by meandering out of the Southburg as it was known then. And he doesn't have Heroic Channel. Shocker, I can't believe it. But yeah, his other little special rules, so he's got Inspiring Presence, which means everyone within 6 inches gets +1 to their fight value, the Rohan warrior models, which is actually pretty good, and I'd actually say borderline better than Theoden's 12-inch on the charge bubble, just because if you then do lose a charge, you're still getting the fight 5 on your royal guard and the fight 4 on your guys, which is like really, really good. And he is known as the Hammerhand. Again, if you know the lore, comes up the palace and just like absolutely socks the lad. And that basically means in the game that he can use his fists to bash, which is kind of cool. And he's never considered unarmed, which is also very nifty. Limitations, if you take him, you can't take any other sort of like named heroes, but which kind of makes sense because none of them were alive at the time. But yeah, that's his kind of like general overview. And if you're going to be using him, realistically, you'll be taking him in the Legendary Legion. And if you own the War and Rohan book and you're flicking through and you're going, cool, there's some nice new models here, there's some nice new Legendary Legions they've introduced in this book, and you go, where the hell is Helm Hammerhand and his Legion? Well, way back in the book, in the appendices, his profile is there and the Legendary Legion is there. If anyone has any idea why it's in that bit of the book, please enlighten me, because it makes absolutely no sense to me. Pretty much like 80% of what I say makes no sense to me. But the Legion is pretty much how you're going to be running him if you're going to be taking him. You basically get the bonus rules of all of your infantry. If they have spears, they can throw them and they can spear support, just not in the same turn. So very similar to Defenders of Helm's Deep, which if you're sort of going to be running a foot army for Rohan is, I'd say, pretty much a necessity because spears are sort of integral to the game. And it kind of makes running this dude like pretty viable if you've kind of got like an all-foot Rohan army, which is kind of nice. The other thing, which is the big one, is he gets Mighty Hero. So not only does he get a free point of might every single turn, but he can also call heroic combats for free every single turn, which is really when he starts to come into shine. Even if he's not on a horse, he's going to be gaining a lot of momentum. He's going to be just like cheering through. I mean, strength 5 with +1 to wound with no penalty. He is really going to be cheering through troops. So he is genuinely excellent. And yeah, very, very excited to be using him this weekend. But don't just take my word for it. Let's see what some of the other guys have to say about him.
I just don't understand it, right? How can he be so strong and so powerful? Ejecla's got so much to answer for making this profile so strong. He's just unstoppable and it doesn't make any sense. How can a dude with hams for hands have such a good profile?
Hammerhand.
Hammers for hands? That's even dumber. How does he hold a sword? This is exactly what I mean, the state of SBG profiles, these weird made up characters.
Helm
I don't care if you're done lending me Hal Ham for hands. I never even asked to borrow him in the first place.
Helm Hammer, forget it.
Hammerhand is a weef.
Right. So this video was intended to be a kind of more positive spin on the Mardin video. And I'm actually recording this probably like a couple of weeks after the tournament I took Helm Hammerhand to. I think if I'd actually recorded it straight after I'd got home, my head might have exploded. I cannot describe to you how much of a letdown Helm Hammerhand is. Now, I've used him before, and I was like, never in a competitive sense, and I think he's fine. I just can't express enough just how badly he would just let you down. Even with like a banner, sort of, I had a banner following him around for like the whole tournament, and he would just roll 2-3 highs on the combats. I've got some clips that maybe I'll splice them in now.
All right then. I'm on a 4 high currently, so I will take a banner because you're on a 5.
I don't know. And it got to a point where there was one game I was playing, and I was just like, it just kept happening and happening, and I was just like, I'm just gonna have to keep recording this, otherwise no one in hell is ever gonna believe me. But yeah, it's just like, obviously he gets his free hero combat, and I'd be calling them against 1 or 2 soldiers, I'd be on the charge, and just against like some shielding guys, if he just doesn't roll his 6, you just kind of go, well, yeah, I've got my free might, but then you kind of want to save your free might for wounding or calling hero moves to kind of keep you on the charge if you can. So then you're going, oh, well, I don't really want to dip into his actual might store, but then you do to win the fight, so your combat goes off, and I don't know, I found he's very, I think objectively he should be better the longer the game goes on, because his free might point and his free heroic combat become more valuable as your opponent runs out of might. But I think the issue that I ran into, and a disclaimer, I can't remember if I said in the first part, but it was 400 points that I played him at. I was using pretty much all of his resources early game, not even for anything that I wanted to particularly. I was having to use it just to win fights so that he wouldn't lose his horse or something like that. Okay. I'm recording this at 8 PM, if anyone's wondering what time of day my neighbour is deciding to drill something. But yeah, but like I said, so I was spending loads of resources early days just to sort of keep him going, because I think if he loses his horse, and he does have Horse Lord, but he only has 1 fate, which is a little bit harsh. But yeah, you're spending all of his resources. If you take a wound on the horse, you're kind of like, well, it's only got 1 fate, and you don't want to be giving up leader VPs and that kind of thing. I also think the fact that the rest of his army will tend to be infantry, because you lose the Rohan army bonus, which is +1 strength on the charge, which is pretty big, to be honest. It kind of meant that you're limited in what you can do with him, because you want to heroic combat with him and like ping him off and like do all this stuff, but it kind of felt like if he wasn't with his army, then he'd just get overwhelmed and killed very quickly, which kind of like limited like what you could do with him. So you kind of needed to stay with his lines, but you also need him to be in 2 places at once. So yeah, so I don't know whether sort of that would be a bit of a solution to give him the +1 strength on the charge and the lead. I'm not sure of his actual rules, but if you just run him vanilla, without the free hero combats and things. Perhaps used to keep the +1 strength on charge, and maybe having an all-mounted helm, kind of like bodyguard thing, might be the way to go. I also just think, last point, maybe the lack of march.
Ironic.
Kind of like hurts him. So kind of like I was talking about, the fact he needs to stay with his army. It kind of just meant that, yeah, just like a march would just help the rest of the army sort of keep pace with him and sort of stay where they need to. But yeah, but I would say on the whole he was a fun model nonetheless. Some games he'll just be amazing and there's literally no stopping him. Other games he'll just let you down constantly. I think the other point to consider is I didn't face any magic, which I think if you face some magic, even a kind of bog standard sort of like a budget wraith that's on horse, I think could shut him down very, very, very easily. But yeah, that's the kind of the gist of it. It was, like I said, I was hoping for it to be like an amazing model and be like a bam, bam, bam. But he genuinely let me down that much all over the weekend that I'm actually going to put these guys into a bit of a tier list, copying a maybe, you know, slightly popular Australian channel that you might watch with MESBG. So we're going to cut to that. Okie dokie. So we got our list in front of us, and if anybody wants to know, this is the only definitive tier list that you're ever going to need in your life. It's going to be full of arbitrary models that nobody uses, that nobody cares about, and we're just gonna keep rolling with this until basically I get bored, or I actually think of something creative to do instead of just copying other more successful channels. But let's not talk about that. So we didn't actually place Mardin because I didn't actually think about doing this because I thought Helm Hammerhand was actually gonna be pretty decent at the time. So I think Mardin is going to go into Mardin tier. These are the tier lists, the tier sort of the tiers. Don't want to just keep saying the word tiers. This is what I've decided to go with. So obviously the models that I'm taking here we expect to be bad. So hence we've kind of got a bit of like a weirder scale than you kind of like think. So the kind of yellow tier which I got here, exactly what you think. That is the baseline of what we're sort of expecting. So, you know, someone like Mardin, we're not expecting any fireworks, but at the same time, you know, he kind of did something kind of neat when I used it, which was he just killed Birder, so that was pretty fucking cool. So we're gonna stick him in Mardin tier because he needs to go into Mardin tier because that makes sense. Now, Helm Hammerhand is a bit of a weird one because no one actually would say he's bad, at least not to your face anyway. But I implore you to go and use him, and please tell me that he's better than what I'm suggesting, because for someone so good on paper, I really fail to see how he's worse than Gambling. So I think he is going to have to go, honestly, into that sort of bracket there, into exactly what you'd think. I don't know what I was expecting. I think reading on paper, I was sat there, I was going to be like, yep, this guy is just going to be the best and nothing's ever going to change my mind about that. But having used him for 4 games, yeah, he's actually, as the tier suggests, he's exactly what you'd kind of think if you actually put some thought into it, which is just a 50-50 kind of loser. So yeah, that's where he's going. That's going to be the end of the video. Deal with it. Next one, Night of Umbar, taking him to a tournament this weekend. So yeah, catch you for that one.